Good morning. It is definitely a delight to come before this body and share information as it pertains to how the City of Detroit Department of Elections recruits and retains poll workers for Election Day. First and foremost, I just want to share with you the genesis in terms of our focus pertaining to this upcoming election. As you know, the November 8th presidential election presents challenges in and of itself just based on the total voter turnout in any community. It's the highest nationally. But for the state of Michigan, one of our biggest challenges is that the legislature and the governor just adopted a bill that eliminates straight party voting. With that being said, one of the biggest challenges as it pertains to that is to manage lines on Election Day to ensure that we don't have an increase in a bottleneck because voters have to vote for the individual candidates in all offices, particularly in the city of Detroit. So our concept was to make sure that we implement a new process to guarantee efficiency at the precinct on Election Day. So in Detroit, we have 490 precincts, and of the 490 precincts, 73 of them have, in 2012, 600 to 1,200 voters who engaged in the process for that particular election. And as such, what we decided to do was to split those precincts out to make sure that when voters attend those polling places, they would have an option to go to Table 1 or Table 2, ultimately cutting the processing time down in half. In addition to that, we're going to increase our voting booths to make sure that we don't have a bottleneck there. With that being said, we had to introduce an additional 500 poll workers at the polls on Election Day, so that was a challenge in and of itself. Then with the presidential primary election, we noticed that, as with most communities, you experience a deficit on Election Day. You train and you prepare for Election Day, and for us, it takes approximately 4,000 poll workers to man our 490 precincts on Election Day, and of the 4,000, we lost about 500, so we had deficits in certain precincts. So we wanted to guarantee that that doesn't occur for the November election, so we had to trump up our recruiting process for the city of Detroit. And what we did at the top of the year, we worked with the Detroit Public Schools. Detroit Public Schools has 22 high schools, and we called in all of the student council representatives for each school and brought them in and talked to them about Democracy for Tomorrow. Democracy for Tomorrow is a group of individuals, high school students, who are concerned about the future of elections and who want to participate in that particular process to guarantee that every voter has an opportunity to engage in the process. With that group of individuals, there were about 50 students who came in, and we talked about elections, and we talked about perhaps having a mock election in the Detroit Public Schools. We met with the administration of Detroit Public Schools, and they agreed, and what they decided to do is to have the candidates for President of the United States on the ballot, as well as 2 advisory questions that they would submit to the students for them to vote on, so that they would have a part in 21st century education in the city of Detroit. So we had the election, the mock election, about a week and a half ago in Detroit Public Schools. Detroit Public Schools has approximately 32,000 students in their high schools, and of that 32,000, approximately 20,000 participated in the election. The beauty of that was the fact that we thought that we could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. First and foremost, introduce voters, students to the voting process, and then the other part was we can register students to vote and recruit. We were able to register approximately 1,200 students to vote for the upcoming election cycles, but the beautiful thing that occurred for us was the fact that in one day we were able to recruit more than 700 poll workers with that Democracy for Tomorrow program. Those students have been recruited, and we sent notices to them via the mail as well as email thanking them for participating in that Democracy for Tomorrow program. The next process is to make sure that each one of those students have an opportunity to go through our training program. We start training poll workers approximately 60 days prior to the election, and each one of those students will have an opportunity to go through the training process to ensure that they have a fundamental understanding of what they need to do at the precinct on Election Day. In terms of our training, because of the various changes and things that will impact us on Election Day, we've revamped our entire program. Just yesterday, we had a production company come out and observe the voting process, whereby they'll be able to create a training video for us for our poll worker training. And the training video will consist of opening the polls on Election Day, processing voters on Election Day, and closing. Those are the three main thrusts for Election Day. And then the fourth element is dealing with problems on Election Day. Problems that impact voters or impact the poll workers first thing in the morning when they open the polls. If the machine isn't working, what do? Problems such as dealing with provisional voters, and problems such as what happens if the print totals process doesn't function properly. And each one of those particular training packs will be placed on our website, whereby the poll worker will have the opportunity to access that as a refresher. And on Election Day, if they have a problem, we require for our polling site assessors to have smartphones where they can go onto our website and pull up that particular problem and whittle their way through that process to have a fundamental understanding to guarantee exactness in terms of election results on Election Day. So we're excited about where the Detroit Department of Elections is. We're looking forward to the August primary, because we'll have the opportunity to kind of use that as a benchmark to make sure that every element of our process is functioning the way that it is, to guarantee that on Election Day on November 8th, each voter will have an opportunity to engage in the democracy process without any type of barriers. So I thank you for this opportunity, and it is definitely a pleasure. Mm-hmm.